Hey, over here.
Hi, Bill.
I'm here with some of the largest living things on Earth.
Okay.
You know what they are? I'll give you 3 guesses.
Elephants.
1.
Whales.
2.
Elephants.
Trees!
That was gonna be my next guess, Bill.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Science rules.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Inertia is a property of matter.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
T minus 7 seconds.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Bill Nye the Science Guy is brought to you by forests. You know, the place where that car freshener smell comes from.
Did you know that almost a third of all the land on Earth is covered with forests? Forests like this one. Now, a forest is made of very big living things. Do you know what they are? They're trees, for crying out loud. It's a forest. But trees aren't the only living things in forests. No, there are millions of living things. Some of them live above the trees, some of them live in the trees, and some of them live on the ground, below the trees. That would be living things like you and me. Now, scientists like to think of a forest as kind of a building. So it has a roof, some rooms, a floor, and a basement. You clipped in there?
Why do I have to be clipped in, Bill?
Good.
Bill?
Now, the basement of a forest is called
Oh, boy.
the subfloor. That's where the roots of trees grow. Then there's the floor. That's the ground. That's where a lot of animals and small plants live. And above that, just like a building has stories, a forest has what we call the understory. Now, the understory is this part right here. Above the understory is the roof of the forest, the top. That's what we call the canopy. That's where the sun is. And that's why most trees have their leaves and needles up near the top, up in the canopy with the sun. Now, each level of the forest, the subfloor, the floor, the understory, and the canopy, is different living things. And they all live together to make the forest ecosystem. So they're living things living in and around living things. Trees! It's a forest! Isn't it great? I've seen this guy. Sometimes he's pretty funny. That's some science right there. Forest, old growth, science, new forestry, wilderness. Trees! 698, 609, 700, 701, 702. This is a very old redwood tree stump. This was cut down a long time ago. Now, you know when someone has a birthday, you put 1 candle on the cake for every year that the person is old. Well, a tree grows a little bit every year. It makes another very thin layer. And then when the tree's cut down, we can count these rings, just like counting candles on a birthday cake, and get an idea of how old the tree is in years. Now, this tree is very old. It has about 1,200 rings. 1,200 years. 1,200 years! I mean, do you understand? I mean, that's 1,200 years old, and some of them are 2,000 years old. That's way older than the United States. I mean, it's way before Copernicus or Christopher Columbus or 1,200 years old. Are you with me? I mean, it's a long time ago. People were barely speaking English. I mean, nobody would say, boy, those tree rings are cool. But you know, they are cool. Oh, I've lost my place. Oh, fine. I come out here, I count rings, I lose my place. I mean, look at it. All right. It was around 700. It was around 700. I'll try this one. You can see the 4 levels of the forest with this model. Down here is the subfloor. This is where the soil is that plant and tree roots grow in. Then here's the floor. This is where we can walk around or go bowling. And then here is the understory, the small plants that aren't as high as the big trees. And up here is the canopy. The canopy is where the sun's energy enters the forest. So at each level, the canopy, the understory, the floor, and the subfloor, there are different types of living things. And they all live together to make up the forest ecosystem. So see, it's not a bad little model. It's a nice model. No, wait. This doesn't belong here. This is a can of peas. And this is a canopy. See, not...
Forests are great places for hiking, studying nature, and camping. But what makes them forests is that they're places mostly covered by trees.
Energy and nutrients in a forest flow in a cycle. Take a look. Sunlight comes into the canopy where leaves and needles on trees grow. After a while, they fall down to the floor where they get broken down into nutrients. They get taken up by the roots of plants and trees and make their way back up here again. So you see, it's a cycle, and it's driven by energy from the sun.
Some peas need a ton of water a day. That's how much a car weighs. And check this out. That water has a long way to go to get to the top. Want to see how trees do it? Then put some celery in some colored water. In a day, you'll see the color in the leaves. Now try this. Put another one under a lamp, like it's a sunny day. Put another one by a fan, a windy day. Put another one in a bag. That's a really humid day. Do plants move water faster or slower when it's sunny, windy, or really humid? Try it!
Take a look at this. It's the forest floor, and it's littered with twigs and pine needles and leaves and pine cones, all kinds of stuff. Looks good, doesn't it?
High in fiber, too.
Well, where does this stuff come from? Well, if something like a tree falls down in the forest, it's wood. It's hard, like that. See? But take a look at this one. This tree's been sitting here probably well over 100 years. And look how soft it is. You can just pry right into it. That's because in here are fungi and insects and bacteria, which are breaking the tree down into soil. They're decomposing it. They're the decomposers. So the decomposers turn dead stuff into soil, the forest floor, for the forest to grow in. And look, here are brand new trees growing right here. No decomposers, no forest floor. No forest!
Universal Pictures presents a tale so terrifying it's been buried for years. But now it's sneaking up beneath your sneakers. It's the incredible Voyage to the Bottom of the Trees. Thrill to the 3 levels of dirt. The dead leaves of litter. The moldy leaves of duff. And of course, horror has a new name. Humus. The dead, decomposed leaves that now look like dirt. This summer, take a voyage to the bottom of the trees.
Oh, man. I'm looking at the tallest trees in the world, the redwoods, on the west coast of the United States in California. Some of these trees are over 100 meters high. That's like a 25-story building high. That's tall. These trees are over 2,000 years old. I mean, that's older than your parents, that's older than your grandparents, that's older than the year 0. They're part of what we call an old-growth redwood forest. And some of them are over 80 meters high. They're big! Over here.
Important timber industry, old growth. Pay attention.
These are logs that have come out of the forest. And this log was brought in after the loggers harvested it, put it on a truck, and it's here at the sawmill. The logs will then be looked at very carefully, and lumber will be made. Some of that lumber will go into a home, some may go into a fence, a deck, a picnic table.
One of the main things that we get from forests is wood. Imagine, if you will, a world without wood. In a world without wood, there'd be no tool handles. Picture frames. Or baseball bats. Or a rocking chair. No wooden fences. Isn't wood great? See, there's your world without wood copy. Right there.
Forests are like buildings with different levels. The top level, the canopy, is kind of like the roof. It's where vines and leaves and moss are.
This is the understory, below the canopy. This is where the little trees, shrubs, and other plants and animals live of the forest. If I lived in the forest, this is where I'd live too.
This is the forest floor. It's also where decomposers live, like worms. They help break down dead plants like this tree and turn it into nutrient-rich soil.
finally, the basement, or the subfloor. It's where all the dirt and roots are. The real underground of the forest.
Scientists believe that this redwood tree is over 600 years old. You know what else? Scientists believe this is the tallest tree on Earth. It's over 100 meters high. Whoa.
20 years from now, there'll probably be a lot of trees. We'll have trees all around this area. And we'll just have a great place for hikers to come. This looks good now. There'll be a great recreation area and a place for animals and people to mix.
This whole place here was once a forest, and the people of our age use these trees for things that we use today, like paper and houses and lumber.
So when you plant your tree, you want to make sure that the roots are going straight down the ground?
When you're planting a tree, you have to keep the roots straight down so that it grows straight up.
You want to plant it in some moist soil so it has some water so it can grow.
We need a price check on cones and a cleanup on humus, please.
Forests are full of living things because forests are full of food. To insects and animals, a forest is like a great big supermarket. The old forest floor isn't as smooth as a grocery aisle. Anyway, in a forest, you might find beetles eating bark and birds eating beetles. Birds also eat berries and nuts. Anyway, a forest isn't just full of trees. No, it's full of food, and that's why it's full of life.
Paper plastic.
Oh, I brought my own. Thanks. Listen, can you tell me, where's the fungus?
Aisle 3.
Aisle 3!
You need a home that you can be proud of. That's why we at 20th Century offer the Forest Dwelling Plan, a safe wooded community on 4 levels. Tour the luxurious dirt level. Ferns and baby trees line the floor. Or you and your family can reside between the treetops and the ground at the understory. And nothing is more exciting or affordable than experiencing the dense and leafy top of the forest, the canopy. Call today for special rates for vacancy on the subfloor, our new secluded subterranean dwelling where a family can...
Different kinds of forests are found all over the world. These are old-growth cypress trees. They grow in swamps in Florida. They've been here several hundred years. Now take a look. The floor and the subfloor and the understory are underwater, and the roots of the cypress trees are set up to allow them to grow here. It grows in a wetland. This is a forest growing in water. This is the understory of a forest in East Texas. And you can see the understory is thick. There's lots of plants. And the trees are deciduous trees. They shed their leaves in the fall. And up there is the canopy. Now still, the forest is all based on trees, things living and growing on and around trees. Like, look at the vines. And here's a large spider who's making a living up there. Man, everything's big in Texas. Everything. This is a fog forest. It gets moisture from rain, but it also gets moisture from fog. Every morning, fog comes into the forest, and it keeps the leaves and needles up high in the trees moist. They don't lose nearly as much water during the day as they would otherwise. Also, the fog condenses on the leaves and needles and branches up high in the trees and falls to the forest floor. Just like rain, fog forests are unusually green and beautiful. Trees? No trees. We're standing on the timberline. The timberline is a place above which trees don't grow. The soil is too rocky. The summers are too short. The winters are too long. And there isn't enough water here. Also, the air is thin. Now, this tree right here is growing right on the timberline. And it might be about 30 years old. See how small it is? That's because it's hard for a tree to live this high up in the mountains. The forest stops at the timberline.
I'm Nalini Nadkarni, and I'm a forest ecologist. I study forests, and I'm one of the few scientists that climbs up to the forest canopy to study what's going on there. All this equipment clanks a lot, but it's actually pretty darn simple. And it's sort of like getting into your underwear in the morning. This is called, I call this a master caster. It's just a wrist rocket that you can get in an Army Navy store, mounted on an aluminum rod with a fishing reel underneath. Put a weight on it, and it's an invention to get the line up over the branch into the tree.
Here goes the rope. Up and over.
You know, forests are cool. Everything about forests are cool. But the coolest part about all forests everywhere is the canopy.
Okay, up we go.
Now getting to the upper canopy. And this is really the exciting part, because this is where so few scientists have studied before. You see, down there on the forest floor, people have pretty much figured things out. They've been studying the forest floor and the understory for centuries. But the canopy has only been studied for maybe 10 years. And so that's why this is called the last biotic frontier, because people just don't know much about it. And that's what makes it exciting for studying up here, because we don't know much about it. Science rules!
See that? That's the smoke from a forest fire in the western United States. This fire was probably started by lightning. That helicopter right there is dumping water on the fire higher up on the hill. Now, when a fire goes through the forest, you can see it burns the understory, and sometimes it burns the canopy. But then what happens is new nutrients are introduced into the forest floor, and it actually helps the forest ecosystem kind of renew itself once in a while. Fires are actually part of the process of the forest ecosystem. We're right in the middle of this fire, and it's eerie, man. I mean, it's kind of wild. It's makes you want to kind of move on. What do you say, guys?
Different kinds of plants and animals live at each level of the forest.
Canopy, understory, floor, and subfloor.
So you see, it's a cycle, and it's driven by energy from the sun.
They say you can't see the forest through the trees. Just take a look around, and I think you'll see the canopy, that's the top, and the floor, then the subfloor, and in between it all, it's an understory. Take care of the forest. There's a lot more here than you or me. Take care of the forest. There's a lot more here than you or me. Animals live in the forest and much more. They live in different levels. There are four. It's an amazing place, not a bore. What you might call ecosystem, with animals from the canopy to the floor. Take care of the forest. There's a lot more here than you or me. Take care of the forest. There's a lot more here than you or me.
Well, that's our show. You'll excuse me, I've got an understory, a canopy, floor, and subfloor to investigate. See you around the woods.
Produced in association with the National Science Foundation.
Isn't wood great?
Bill Nye, the Science Guy.
Bill, 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 Bill.
More rocking chairs.
Bill Nye, the Science Guy.
Bill, 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 Bill.
But they probably.
Bill Nye, the Science Guy.
Bill, 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 Bill.
Not when you're done, Bill.
I'm done.